Girlfriend's ex-coworkers contacted me to say she cheated on me 3 years ago. My girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years. We are now in our mid to late 20s and are considering purchasing a house together and having children. When we first met, she was shy and lacked a close friend group, so it has primarily been just the two of us since then. She rarely goes out with friends, and neither do I. We have always found joy in each other's company. I was her first boyfriend and the first man she slept with, and everything has gone smoothly since day one. 3 years ago, she worked at a high-end fashion store for approximately 6 months, and during that time, she attended a fashion show in Italy. Upon her return, she quit the job just a few weeks later. I never had any doubts or concerns about her behavior during her trip. Last week, an old male coworker of hers reached out to me unexpectedly and claimed that my girlfriend and her boss, a rather ordinary, overweight, bald man standing at 5 feet 6 inches, missed the fashion show. He mentioned that, after the dinner, my girlfriend and her boss did not offer a valid excuse and left the dinner early. He also noted that they both had rooms on the same floor of the hotel, unlike the rest of the staff, who stayed on a different level. When my girlfriend resigned, her boss held a meeting with all the employees and informed them that he had to terminate her employment due to her refusal to comply with his demands and their ongoing disputes. The coworker affirmed that he had never seen them argue and that she complied with her boss, just like everyone else. The coworker who contacted me has no interest in women, so I knew it wasn't a case of jealousy. I was skeptical and dismissed his comments with a curt response, but this morning, a female coworker who used to give her rides home after work messaged me to confirm that everything the first coworker said was indeed true. They felt compelled to inform me, especially after seeing my girlfriend's posts about our house search. I have not broached the topic with her yet due to scheduling conflicts, but I did speak with a close friend of mine who knows her family, and I shared the situation with him. He was understandably shocked but immediately suspected infidelity as well. He recalled an incident from a year ago that seemed out of character for her. At a family gathering I did not attend, she got excessively drunk early in the night, left the bar, and returned approximately an hour and a half later in a taxi, claiming she had to get home. He mentioned he thought it was odd that I hadn't taken her back earlier that evening. I spent that night at home, waiting to pick her up. She did not leave for any valid reason. I did not go earlier because I thought she needed time to socialize without me. My friend hinted that he suspected she might have left to obtain drugs, but it was not that kind of event. The girlfriend I know would never consider using drugs or departing alone in a taxi in front of everyone to procure them. Besides, we share our finances, and I am aware that spending money on a new dress and attending this gathering had already strained our budget. Additionally, since my last message and the responses I received, I have done some further investigation and discovered that her search history included adult videos featuring older men. She searched for this type of content 4 times within a week and simultaneously looked up anal plugs, which she apparently ordered. I have never heard her mention adult toys or indicate an interest in any form of pornography. I understand that many will say this isn't definitive evidence of infidelity, but I feel as though I may have overlooked certain aspects of our relationship for too long. Perhaps I was too enamored over these past 6 years, and now everything seems to have been right in front of me, unnoticed. I plan to talk to her tonight. However, considering how open she has always been with me, I cannot comprehend why she would not mention her kinks or why she needed to leave the gathering. After 6 years together, if she had to leave due to a personal matter or embarrassment, I believe she would have confided in me. I am hesitant to discuss this with anyone else in case they share another concerning story. I feel this may be the end for us, regardless of whether cheating occurred, as I realize I do not truly know her after all, especially after the last 2 days. Update: I had a conversation with her, and it did not go well. She was cornered and denied all allegations, leading to a major argument, after which I informed her I was leaving. Thus, our relationship is over. Since then, she has reached out to me, asking if we could attempt to reconcile and possibly consider an open relationship, which has made me question who she truly is. Final update: many of you continue to suggest that this could have involved sexual assault and that I should avoid making assumptions. I kept my previous update brief due to the emotional turmoil. We began the dialogue by discussing the mentioned coworkers and whether she still remained in contact with them. She confirmed that she is still in touch with them, particularly the female coworker who reached out to me. I showed her both messages, and she denied all claims made by them. She did not mention anything about potential assault or cover-ups, insisting that everything they said was untrue, affirming that she did go to the fashion show and that she did not leave the dinner early. She stated they shared the same floor for rooms, asserting there was no validity to what had been relayed to me. I knew this was inaccurate, as one coworker saved a Snapchat memory of the dinner and the fashion show, in addition to sending messages to my ex about how odd it was that they were on a different floor from everyone else. I confronted her with this evidence, and she became extremely defensive, attempting to challenge the proof I presented, but providing no means to support her narrative. When I brought up her departing the party in a cab, as our mutual friend recounted, she claimed she didn't recall where she had gone and again insisted that she had not left the gathering, labeling it as a fabrication. She then claimed that the searches for adult toys and videos were something she had intended to discuss with me, as she wished to incorporate role play into our relationship. However, she asserted that these searches were not recent, and while the toy had supposedly been delivered, I have not seen it nor found it among her belongings, leading me to suspect it might be at someone else's place. When I left, she expressed understanding regarding my decision to leave, even though she did not admit to anything. She then proposed the idea of reconciling under any circumstances, including possibly an open arrangement. Following this discussion, she announced plans to travel solo to the United Kingdom. I contacted the coworkers, and her boss will not accompany her on this trip, so she is not still involved with him. However, she may have someone else or genuinely be traveling alone. I believe this marks the conclusion of this saga for me. I am processing the situation and awaiting the emotional impact, but honestly, it feels surreal. Story 2. She 22F, cheated on me with her ex, I 24M, forgave and then I cheated on her. Our background, I 24 years old, male, work as a sales manager earning $60,000 and my girlfriend, 22 years old, female, works as a guest relations officer, high-end escort and social drinker at a club. She took an interest in me when I was still heartbroken from a girl I pursued over a year ago. Initially, she only wanted a physical relationship, but I became emotionally attached, and she reluctantly allowed me into her life. After some time, she accepted me, but about 5 to 6 months in, while I was visiting my parents out of state, she invited her ex to come over and spend the night. She experienced sexual abuse from her stepfather growing up and has been without family since she turned 18. Her ex somewhat healed her and holds a unique place in her heart, but he neglected her and didn't put in the effort she needed. Naturally, I was devastated. I discovered her secret because I suspected her behavior had changed, and I went through her text messages. We attended a friend's event together, and when her ex arrived, she went to pick him up. However, she cannot display affection towards me because her clients might notice. After that, we returned, I confronted her about it, and she responded, "I am like this, what are you going to do?" So I chose to leave her. She called me back a few days later, and I was forgiving, allowing her back into my life. Aside from the fact that we cannot publicly acknowledge our relationship, when I come home from work, she does not smile because she is focused on preparing her makeup for work and tends to be late, which frustrates her. My daily routine consists of coming home, helping her pack her bags for work, choosing her clothes, getting her food, arranging a cab, doing her hair, and assisting her with her attire and jewelry. Once she leaves for work, I clean the house and handle chores. When she returns, she wakes me up to help her remove her makeup and keeps me company while she showers. I work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., while she works from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., and often until 3 or 4 a.m. When I do not answer her calls en route home, she becomes angry. Sometimes, she reacts similarly when she has been drinking. If I feel sleepy due to lack of rest, she becomes upset. If I take time for myself, she gets angry as well. She verbally abuses me and even resorts to physical violence. I have spent so much money on her that I am now in debt. However, she spends just as much if not more because she earns $20,000 to $30,000 each month. She sometimes sleeps with her clients, which I was aware of from the beginning, and I insisted I could handle it, but it has clearly affected me. We frequently attend clubs and events together, but she rarely stays by my side because, technically, she is supposed to be single for her job. Yet she often engages with other men, including friends and former flings. I feel invisible. A few months ago, we went to Thailand during my birthday month for a music festival, and I reserved a nice dinner for her. On the first day, she expressed a desire to smoke marijuana, so I contacted a friend who provided free joints. We went over and she smoked. I do not drink alcohol, smoke, or even vape. I wore a mask, but it was overwhelming for me, and I ended up with a headache and began vomiting. Thus, I spent the entire trip in the hotel, missing the prepaid dinner, and she expressed her anger toward me while I was unwell. Overall, throughout the relationship, I have felt unappreciated and disregarded, with a notable lack of enthusiasm and effort from her. Yes, she has given me gifts like designer perfume and took me to eat at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant for my birthday. Our sex life was satisfying, but I struggle with climaxing, which frustrates her. When she becomes upset, she demands I pack my belongings and leave, treating me like I am insignificant. Even when I attempt to discuss matters and apologize, her reasons for being upset often seem unreasonable, such as my sleepiness. She frequently tells me to gather my things and get out. I must awaken at 7:30 a.m. for work, return home to help her prepare, complete chores, and then sleep, only to wake at 3 or 4 a.m. when she gets home, keeping her company until I go back to sleep around 5 or 6 a.m. naturally. I am going to be tired and lacking energy, and she becomes upset with me for that. I wish to utilize my weekends to finish my DJ course and meet people to sell insurance, but she accuses me of abandoning her and makes me feel guilty for wanting to leave home. Here is where I made a mistake. I began texting and entertaining other women, both casually and sexually. I am conventionally attractive, so it is not unusual for women to reach out to me, but I typically ignore them easily because I am extremely loyal. However, feeling restricted and unappreciated led me to engage in conversations with them. I met some women to chat and discuss selling insurance, and when they flirted in person, it felt wrong, so I put a stop to it. Still, it occurred with several others. In fact, when I go to clubs, where I also work as a promoter, many women attempt to dance with me and flirt. Usually, I would avoid them, but recently, I allowed it to happen. Last night, she accessed my phone and reviewed all my texts. At first, she laughed at how absurd it was and took screenshots to share in her girls' group chat, which includes cheaters, guest relations officers, and individuals who sleep around. However, after a while, she began to break down and cried extensively. I expressed that I regretted my actions and shared my honest reasons, and she accused me of guilt-tripping her and said she felt lost. I still love her and asked for forgiveness, assuring her that I would do anything to rebuild that trust. We have a trip planned together next week with several mutual friends, including some of the girls from her group chat. Yet part of me thinks I should leave this emotional baggage behind. In fact, part of me feels detached. I was crying, yet something in my mind questioned, "Why are you crying? This is payback. She never truly loved you." I was diagnosed with dysthymia and antisocial personality disorder when I sought therapy for my anger issues in 2020. I attended therapy weekly, which softened me. I used to be aggressive and harbored violent thoughts, which I still do but have learned to suppress. Yet, while crying, I can still smile. It's as if I cannot truly feel anything, and all my actions seem on autopilot, as if I am pretending to behave like a typical person. In summary, I dated an escort who emotionally and physically cheated on me by inviting her ex over. I forgave her but felt restricted, unappreciated, and abused. I subsequently emotionally cheated by texting other women. I still love her, but I am uncertain whether I should focus on myself or continue this relationship. I understand that this may sound unrealistic, but I assure you it is true. Story 3. My GF, F19, left me, M21, for being too loving, and now I'm in a spiral of emotions. This is more of a release than anything else, and it's quite lengthy, so I hope someone can take the time to read it. I met a girl, let's refer to her as Mary, at university. Our bond was almost instant, as if we had known each other for years, despite having only spent a day together. We did everything together, and gradually our relationship deepened, since I do not have a very large social circle, and I genuinely enjoyed being with her. As time passed, I began to develop feelings for her, something I wanted to avoid at all costs, as the previous year, 2023, I had just ended a 3.5-year relationship and did not feel entirely prepared for a new one, in addition to the overwhelming fear that she might not share the same feelings. Nevertheless, I couldn't resist giving her thoughtful details and small gifts, indicators of how much I cared for her and how deeply I loved her. I chastised myself in my mind for acting this way, but eventually, I overcame my cowardice and believed that I deserved a new opportunity for love too. Eventually, she admitted to me that she felt the same way, and a couple of days later, we began dating. It is important to note that I am someone who is very affectionate, sentimental, clingy, however you wish to describe it. I adore physical touch and often engage in silly or absurd antics, as well as using similarly lighthearted language. However, Mary had not experienced much fortune in her past relationships, so I want to believe she never became accustomed to being truly loved. Her former partner even conveyed to her that he was only content with her when there were no other options available. With this in mind, I aimed to love her as much as she truly deserved, unlike anyone had before. However, after only a month together, she chose to break up with me because, in her own words, she did not appreciate my behavior as her boyfriend. That period was quite dark in my personal life beyond Mary, but she brought a great deal of joy to everything else, which ultimately contributed to my downfall. Unfortunately, I am used to the constant ebb and flow of people in my life, so when one of them departs, it feels permanent, and I assumed this would be no different. However, one day, she asked to discuss things. She told me broadly that she was unhappy with our dynamic as a couple but loved our friendship and wanted to maintain that connection. Recognizing that this was the first time someone genuinely wanted to keep in touch with me, I conceded, and we remained friends. Eventually, I was invited to a family gathering of hers, but oddly, I arrived being introduced as her boyfriend. That surprised me, and as the evening continued, I had more questions than answers. Mary's hometown is 2 hours away from the city where I live. She was back for winter break, so I decided to spend the night at a hotel there, and she joined me. It is not what you might assume. We simply fell asleep together, but you cannot fathom how warm my heart felt from such a simple gesture. The following day, we opted to spend the afternoon together, during which we discussed our situation. She expressed that she did want something with me and was truly interested, but that we needed time to sort things out. In the meantime, we would not just be friends, but something more, although not officially dating yet. Again, I agreed and returned home. Everything proceeded normally for the following few days, until Christmas. My family went on vacation to another state, and I remained at home alone since my job is somewhat unpredictable. Seizing the opportunity, I invited her to spend the night at my place. Once she arrived, we had dinner and slept together again. It was an incredible night. I even prepared her a simple breakfast the following day, and we spent the remainder of December 24th together. That evening, I accompanied her back to her parents' home, as she planned to spend the holiday with her family, while I was heading to my best friend's house to celebrate with him and his family. Everything was going wonderfully. The distance made it a bit challenging for us to see each other, but we communicated very frequently. 2 weeks ago, one afternoon, I accompanied my best friend to purchase a gift for her, as I wanted to give her something for when we returned to school the following week. I spent 4 hours searching but finally found the perfect gift. However, while talking with my friend, I experienced a strange feeling, as if something unfortunate was about to occur, but I simply disregarded it. That same afternoon, once home, Mary messaged me after not having done so all day. Essentially, she conveyed the same message as before, that she was unhappy with our dynamic as a couple, now adding that she did not appreciate my loving gestures and attentiveness, as they made her feel uncomfortable. I never did anything she was uncomfortable with. I always tried to be understanding, and I reiterate, I wanted to love her in a way that no one else had up until that point. However, I suppose we are simply not compatible for this. We returned to the previous status, just friends, with a definitive period at the end of the sentence. Returning to school, I was understandably heartbroken, and she was blaming herself for everything. However, trying to be understanding toward her, I made it clear that I did not wish to assign blame, and that sometimes things simply do not work out. To this day, We continue to see each other and communicate regularly, maintaining the friendly dynamic we had before. Yet, I still personally feel that deep and powerful connection I shared with her from the very beginning, and I can state with certainty that I still love her, despite everything, which frustrates me greatly. It is an awful feeling to be so close to her, but unable to express my feelings, and I have frequently found myself on the brink of subconsciously addressing her in those endearing ways I used to, holding her hand or exhibiting affectionate gestures. Nonetheless, I do not want to distance myself from her either, as I genuinely wish to keep her in my life, at least in this manner, and I am committed to loving her to the best of my ability, even in a friendship. I am uncertain about what to do at this point. My heart yearns for her, while my mind attempts to negotiate with it, and the frustration, sorrow, and sadness are quite intense, creating a constant battle with the joy, excitement, and connection I still feel when I see her. I will continue in this state for the remainder of the semester, as she plans to transfer to a school closer to her current home next term. I love her, but I cannot comprehend why she is not meant for me. Do you have any guidance that you could offer me in this situation? Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Story 4. My girlfriend, 32F, dumped me 33M and asked for no contact. She couldn't go one day without reaching out. Is she reconsidering? My girlfriend and I ended our relationship shortly before Christmas after she found my rather mundane collection of adult films. She suggested several terms she wanted me to agree to as essential conditions for reconciliation, which I accepted. One of those conditions included couples counseling. I have put in significant effort, fulfilling all of her requests and aligning my communication and visitation with her pace. We have gone on dates, and I have provided her companionship during her lonely times, yet she appears to contribute very little effort. During a counseling session last Tuesday, she exhibited a very distant demeanor. I mentioned that I had noticed her using a dating application while we were together the week before at my home. I chose not to confront her about it previously, thinking she might want to provoke jealousy or some similar reaction from me. We had intimate relations that same day, and it felt different from any previous experiences. I am her only serious partner, and she has never been involved with anyone else. She is not someone who typically explores dating numerous individuals. She refused to clarify her actions, and even our counselor pointed out that if we were going to pursue counseling, we needed to be exclusive with one another, or it would be pointless. Still, she remained resistant and declined to explain, almost as if she wanted to observe my discomfort. Her behavior was quite troubling, as I have never witnessed her acting this way since we separated. She seemed uniquely hostile and conflicted inside. After the session, I brought it up once more, and she deflected by attempting to gaslight me on an unrelated topic to provoke my anger, which did not succeed. I believe she intended to create a scene in public. Ultimately, there was nothing productive that came from our meeting, despite it being her suggestion that we pursue counseling, of which I am covering 100%. Later that evening, I called her to express that if she wished for me to cease my attempts to salvage this relationship, she should let me know, as I cannot be the sole contributor to the effort. It feels like she has made considerable efforts to compel me to give up and break my resolve or test my devotion to her and to meaningful change. She has maintained a perspective that casts me as the antagonist, treating me poorly through 7 weeks of emotional turmoil characterized by a push and pull dynamic. Both of us find ourselves on an emotional roller coaster. During my call, I articulated that I was tired of her manipulative tactics, gaslighting, and lack of respect, and that a change was necessary, or I would withdraw. She pushed back, which led to the conclusion of the call, as I wanted to avoid making major decisions while emotionally heightened. That same night, she called me 5 times consecutively. I expressed my desire not to talk, but she insisted it was urgent, so I answered. She stated that she wanted no further contact with me. We spent 30 minutes calmly communicating, and I mostly listened to her perspective. She mentioned how we had been discussing our shared future and plans for marriage and children before the breakup, and how she had prayed that I would be suitable for her. However, she claimed she could not overcome her perception of me now. She comes from a very conservative, religious Latin American family. Although she cried during the call, I respected her wishes and granted her what she wanted. I expressed my hope that she would reconsider and give us another chance, asking her to reach out when she felt able to communicate in the future. I ended the call feeling a mix of relief, shock, and sadness. The entire situation has been rather strange. The very next day, she called me twice, and I let the calls go unanswered. She sent messages indicating that she had been emotional the previous day, but today, she felt calm and wanted to contact me after work. She expressed a desire to apologize. I waited a few hours, contemplated my response, and replied that I did not want to have a call that day, but we could meet in person on Friday night, today. Her responses were immediate and conveyed a much more conciliatory tone of agreement. "Thank you for your response. Yes, meeting in person is preferable. Are you sure that's all right? I hope you are doing well during this time." She knows I have not been well. She has put me through an emotional whirlwind over the past 7 weeks, and I have been in a state of constant distress since. It felt to me as though the night before, she had shared everything weighing on her heart and mind, and it should have served as adequate closure or a sense of finality. I do not require an apology. I only want to move forward with my life. I want to engage with her only if she is prepared to accept responsibility and genuinely invest effort in our relationship. Her behavior has been so erratic that I am somewhat traumatized and skeptical about her intentions. I approach this meeting with an open mind, but with firm and healthy boundaries. I refuse to engage in games. I suspect she may have started seeing someone else in recent weeks while we were experiencing difficulties, possibly deciding she is interested in pursuing that individual instead, in which case, I do not feel jealous. I simply seek clarity, as she strongly emphasized my need to remain exclusive to her when presenting her initial non-negotiable stipulations. Has she merely been using me for companionship and to fulfill her own needs while she explores options with others? Have I been naive and overly accommodating because of my commitment to her? I am puzzled as to why she would reach out the day after declaring no contact with such urgency and a different tone. Is she reconsidering her stance now that I have stopped acting submissively? I feel confused and anxious about our meeting later, yet I am also resolved and confident that I will manage it appropriately. I remain cautious. Most of my friends and family believe I should avoid meeting her and simply block her. She has demonstrated immaturity and an inability to communicate effectively, yet I am her only partner, and she lacks other experiences. Perhaps she needs to explore with others to truly appreciate who I am and the special relationship we shared. Much of what I have outlined is speculative, I acknowledge. However, I genuinely want to know what you think because I am completely at a loss. Perhaps tonight will bring clarity, or she will confess something. One can never be sure. I am hoping she has changed her perspective and is willing to give our relationship a genuine chance, but I am not convinced that is probable. It feels like more manipulation, yet I am approaching this with good intentions. Story 5. Have I, 32M, been ignoring serious red flags from my wife, 34F? Ever feel that you are overthinking so much that you are unsure of what you truly feel or what you desire? I'm experiencing this right now and could really use some assistance in figuring it out. My wife, 34 years old, and I, 32 years old, have been together for 11 years, married for 5, and we share a child. We have faced a few difficult moments, yet overall, I would say that we are quite stable, though admittedly, we are in a bit of a routine at present. The issue I face is that there have been several possible red flags in our relationship that lead me to believe she may have been unfaithful, which I have disregarded. However, as I reflect on these instances collectively, it appears to be too significant for nothing to have occurred. Some context infidelity has affected me greatly throughout my life, past relationships, parents, etc. It has led me to experience considerable jealousy and trust issues that I have made tremendous efforts to overcome. But at what point does my effort become naivety, causing me to overlook clear indicators? Here is what I have recorded: witnessed her attempting to kiss someone not long into our relationship. We went out for the night, and I observed her trying to kiss a male friend. This should have been an immediate deal breaker, I know. She was unaware that I saw it, and I intended to break up with her the following day. It would have caused complications to do it immediately. However, she slipped and injured her ankle later that evening, and I felt compelled to care for her, both that night and for a while afterward. Ultimately, I never brought it up, and honestly, the details are a bit hazy now, but I remember not wanting to appear cruel for ending things when she was hurt. Sending Snapchat messages to a guy probably insignificant, but back when Snapchat was more commonly used around 2015, it was quite late one night, and she had left her phone in our bed while sleeping. As I was trying to rest, it vibrated beside me. I wondered who would be messaging her at that hour, so I succumbed to my insecurities and checked. It was a Snapchat from a guy I had never heard of, and she had never mentioned before, with a unique spelling of his name. Acknowledging that I had invaded her privacy, I kept quiet since I didn't want to be seen as the villain. Messaging an ex-friend with benefits a short while after we became engaged and purchased a home together around 2017, I used her phone to capture photos of us, and a Snapchat came through from an ex-housemate she had been intimate with a few times prior to our meeting. I was furious and confronted her about it, but she denied any wrongdoing, claiming they were just friends and there was nothing wrong. I should have insisted on seeing what he sent, but I reasoned that my jealousy was acting up and tried to move past it. I was close to ending the relationship, but was concerned it was a personal issue and knew that separating after making such a significant investment would be a costly nightmare. Discovered she had a Tinder account while assisting her with a phone problem. I discovered in her app history that she had previously installed Tinder. We became official in early 2014, which, to my knowledge, was before Tinder gained significant popularity in the UK. I confronted her, and she claimed she must have attempted it before we met, and then deleted the app. She mentioned going on dates through Plenty of Fish prior to our relationship, but did not bring up Tinder. Does anyone know if Tinder was widely used before 2014 in the UK? I cannot find a clear answer. Shaved before my trip, she routinely shaves her pubic area only when sex is definitely anticipated, such as on a date night. I have no objection to this, as it is not my place to dictate. However, the night before I was scheduled to travel for work for the first time, sex was not anticipated for various reasons, and she also informed me that she would stay at her cousin's house while I was away, as it is slightly closer to her workplace. She had done this before at a previous residence months back, but had since said it was unnecessary at her new place. After showering, she entered our room and her towel slipped open slightly, leading me to believe she had shaved. When I inquired, she attempted to conceal it. This seemed like a strange reaction. Upon asking again, she confirmed she had shaved. I questioned her on why she did so while I would be away, and she stated that she forgot I was leaving, which seems plausible since it was my first work trip and we had discussed it frequently. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but this particularly stuck in my mind. I was unexpectedly diagnosed with herpes a few years ago. I received an unexpected herpes diagnosis. I had not been intimate with anyone for 7 years by that point. I understand herpes can remain dormant for a while, but 7 years. I cannot find a definitive answer on whether that is possible. She was pregnant when I learned of the diagnosis, and I was so thrilled about becoming a father that I brushed it off, but it felt unusual. Sort of caught her in a contradiction regarding her ex when we first met. She remained friends with an ex from when she was 17. I asked how serious their relationship was, and she claimed they only kissed. That seemed reasonable at the time, and he is currently in a long-term relationship with someone she is also friends with. However, at another point, she mentioned going through a slut phase, her terminology, at 17. I connected the dots some time ago but did not mention anything until recently. I asked if she had slept with her ex during that slut phase at 17, but this time she claimed she could not remember. This seems suspicious to me, honestly, because forgetting something like that with someone you remained friends with for an extended period afterward seems unlikely. There they are, the possible red flags I have been attempting to ignore but cannot shake from my thoughts. Please feel free to call me out if this seems like me giving in to my insecurities. I just need to ascertain if I am trying so hard to overcome my own issues that I have been foolish and naive to overlook so much. I have never caught her in the act, and I genuinely do not wish for my marriage to disintegrate due to my paranoia. It is unfair to anyone involved. Thank you. TL, Dr. Wife has exhibited multiple potential red flags during our relationship. Is it my own insecurities, or am I being foolishly naive? Edited is worth noting that I do not believe she is having an affair or cheating on me currently or even recently. Other than the diagnosis and my questioning her about her relationship with her ex, this is all from before we were married. If I truly have been exceedingly naive, as it seems I may have been, I would appreciate any rational advice. Story 6. If you were cheated on and messaged the other person that your ex cheated on you with, please help me. 29F 33M. I recently discovered that my boyfriend of 5 years cheated and deceived me. I believed he was my soulmate and I was prepared to marry him. He was the best person I had ever encountered, and I held him in such high regard. Here's a bit of background information. Nearly 2 years ago, I learned that he went skiing with some girls, which he had told me was a group activity. At that time, we had been dating for almost 3 years. He insisted that he didn't do anything wrong, didn't cheat at all, and that he simply went skiing with the group. However, the reality that he lied about the entire situation and concealed it from me was something I struggled to accept. After about 2 months of going back and forth, I ultimately decided to forgive him and work on the relationship. It took me nearly a year and a half to fully move past the incident and pardon him so I could rebuild my trust for the relationship's sake. I chose to leave the past behind. The relationship improved significantly, filled with love and support. Fast forward to now, almost 2 years later, I unexpectedly find out that one of the girls he was with on that original ski trip remained in contact with him, and they continued to meet up afterwards. I also discovered that he took a solo trip with just her, during which they actually slept together. I stumbled upon this information by chance due to my keen investigative skills. When I looked through social media, I found evidence that he had been spending time with her since their first encounter. When I confronted him about everything, it took a lengthy conversation for him to finally confess that he had cheated, but he only admitted to doing so a single time during that recent solo trip a few months ago. Clearly, the relationship is over. There is no turning back. My trust has been utterly shattered. Right now, I feel heartbroken and continuously ask myself, why wasn't I sufficient? Even though I understand his actions do not reflect my worth, I was very understanding as a girlfriend. I didn't mind him having friends, even female ones. I am very content with who I am and I love myself, thus I never felt the urge to be jealous and found it to be a waste of energy. All I wanted was an open line of communication and honesty in our relationship, particularly after discovering his lies for the first time. That was also the one rule I set when we reconciled 2 years ago. Regardless of the situation, there would be no more lying, no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. I always emphasized to him that even if he wanted to break up or take a break, he should discuss it with me rather than resorting to dishonesty or cheating, which he always agreed to. His betrayal of my trust again, knowing how painful the previous incident was for me, fills me with intense anger and confusion. I feel utterly blindsided, and I'm experiencing an identity crisis regarding who this person was. It seems that our entire relationship was not only deceptive, but I also feel he never truly loved me. Despite his claims that he made a mistake and that his love for me was real, there are so many lies that leave me unsure of what to believe anymore. Part of me really wants to reach out to the girl to ask because I still feel like he is being dishonest about certain matters or distorting the truth. I don't know why I still feel this way. It seems that maybe if she can tell me or confirm the truth, I might find some sense of freedom. I don't really mind if it is painful to hear because I already assume the worst in my mind. I understand some of you might think, it doesn't matter anymore. He cheated. Just move on. Believe me, I resonate with that sentiment too. However, the reason I feel the need for her confirmation is that I want to understand just how much of a liar he is. He claims he has told me everything, but as I stated, I no longer believe anything he says due to all the deception. Therefore, I messaged the girl because I could not suppress that urge any longer. Perhaps I am just caught up in my emotions right now and reacting impulsively. I sent her a message that said, "Hello, I don't know if you are aware of my existence, but I was X's girlfriend for almost 5 years until I recently learned everything about your interactions because he deceived and concealed the truth from me. I just want to ask one thing, and I hope you could be honest with me. Did you two hook up multiple times apart from that one trip? X is being dishonest about everything, and I would appreciate it if you could share the truth with me so I can find my closure and make my peace with everything. Thank you. I hope we can keep this confidential if possible. To be completely open, I do feel somewhat foolish for reaching out to her. I recognize she may never respond or might even lie. At this point, it is uncertain. But I wanted to give it one final attempt to uncover the complete truth. Can someone please tell me if I am being irrational at this moment, and if I am overanalyzing my decision to message her? I feel that the message I sent was polite and considerate. I hold no ill will toward this girl. At this stage, I simply want to uncover the truth. I am seeking any confirmation of whether what he told me was accurate or false, so that I can continue with my healing journey. I know I might not receive the answers I seek from her, and that is acceptable as well. However, the struggle I face now is feeling guilty for having messaged her, as if it was inappropriate, since he made me feel that way when I commented on wanting to reach out to her to compare our stories, given his constant dishonesty. If anyone has gone through a similar experience, please share your advice, as I am uncertain about my next steps. I suppose consulting a therapist should be my next move.